Hello. Jania Massey here with JSM Consulting, and I'm super excited because it is the second Wednesday of the month. That means for my NPO University crew that we're about to have a free training, and tonight is going to be a treat. I'm excited. We have a special guest, and we're talking about fundraising 101, which is a topic that you guys just can't seem to stop asking me about. So I decided to ask someone that I met. I can't remember when I met Shannon. I'm sure we're going to have a figure out when I met. I remember meeting her when she used to work at Urban League, but I cannot remember officially when we met. But Shannon McKnight is our special guest, and I want to read her bio because she is uber amazing, and I want you to just know why she's the special guest for tonight. So Shannon McKnight is a nonprofit fundraising consultant who has been in the nonprofit sector for over 15 years. Her passion for the underserved has led her to champion and raise funds for several charitable causes, including workforce development, early childhood education, youth programming, and services for individuals. Her professional grant proposal writing and fund development initiatives has raised well over $2.5 million during the scope of her career. So let me just pause right there. $2.5 million, not $2,500. Not $250, $2.5 million over the course of her career. She has experience in grant proposal research and writing, nonprofit startup and compliance, fund development strategy, board of director recruitment and training, strategic planning for sustainability, capital, fundraising campaigns, producing fundraising events, sponsor and donor cultivation, as well as volunteer management. She's a member of Charlotte Area Association for Black Journalists, Association of Fundraising Professionals, and the Public Relations Society of America. Shannon was selected to participate and recently completed the inaugural nonprofit leadership class hosted by Crumley Roberts, and was named one of the 50 emerging nonprofit leaders across the country by Bank of America's Neighborhood Builders Grant Program. So I want y'all to put your right hand, your left. I want you to just go crazy in the chat right now because I'm going to bring Shannon on. So, hello.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. This is going to be so fun.
I'm excited. So me and Shannon have been talking behind the scenes. But before we dive into it, just a few housekeeping rules. You all know that you can put your comments in the chat and we will get to answering it. I have some series of questions that I'm going to ask Shannon, and then we're going to have a Q&A portion. But y'all that have been watching this show, y'all know we like to keep it real and we like to have a little girl chat. So I'm going to start off with a little game first. Is that okay?
Okay.
So this game is called This or That. Okay, so you have to choose one of the other.
Okay.
And it might be personal, and it might be something related to grant writing. But
okay,
do you prefer writing grants or engaging with individual donors?
Engaging with individual donors.
Okay, why? Because it's easier. You think it's easy?
No, it's a challenge, and that's what I love. You never know what you're going to get. So when you're engaging with them, you get the opportunity to see and to hear what makes them tick. And so I'm a people watcher by nature. So to engage with individual donors to see why they give, what pulls on their heartstrings, that kind of thing. That's pretty exciting to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one, are you spring, summer, or fall, winter?
Spring, summer.
Why spring, summer?
I'd rather be hot than cold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a summer baby, so I'm always going spring, summer.
And I'm a Pisces, so I'd rather swim than go to the mountains.
It makes all the sense. Okay. So, this is a Charlotte question.
Okay.
West Side or University area?
West Side.
Okay, another throwback Charlotte question. Freedom Mall or Eastland Mall?
Ooh, Eastland Mall.
Why East Lamar? Because ice skating? Because
The ice skate, and then the food court, and all of that, all the different stores and stuff. Freedom Mall was a little, little short.
But I have the best memories in Freedom Mall because I originally moved here. So
okay.
I moved here when I was 6, and it was because my stepfather at the time, he worked at Kenny Shoes, and it was in Freedom Mall.
Freedom Mall, yep.
So back then, they had a record store. So I remember meeting like TLC and Chris Cross. Like that was back. Of course, we have social media, so that's how you met artists. So it was like, and there used to be this place called Mel's, and it was subs. And
subs, yep.
I used to fry it, flat, and I used to get one all the time. So, but Eastland, of course, Eastland.
Yeah, Eastland was the all day Saturday mall.
Yes.
Freedom Mall was like maybe a Friday evening, or like with the record store when they have guests. That's when you go over there. Okay. With the people from where I grew up, on my side of town.
On your side of town, yes. Okay. One more. This is the last one.
Okay.
Do you prefer working with grassroots organizations or mid-sized to larger organizations?
Oh, God, that's a good one. I think my preference might be grassroots. Yeah, I think that's my preference.
Okay.
The passion of folks who just want to do good, right? Like these individual or very small group of do-gooders. Like you can't help but kind of go, oh, okay. So I think grassroots.
Right. Well, thank you for indulging.
That was fun.
So I want to start off with the first question, and it is, what is one myth about fundraising, and what is one truth about fundraising from your experience?
Okay.
Over 15 years.
That's a great question. And what I'll say is a myth about fundraising is many people think that fundraising means fundraisers, and that's not what that means. Fundraising is all encompassing your revenue, your income strategy for the sustainability of your organization. So fundraising encompasses not only fundraisers, but individual donors. It encompasses grants. It encompasses, government entities and corporate. It's your full financial income picture. So that's a common myth, is that, oh, if we're doing fundraising, I need to go get me a GoFundMe. That's not what that means.
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
Got another question. Okay.
Don't talk about a GoFundMe. So, and then, of course, one truth about fundraising is it can be fun. I enjoy it because it's like putting together a puzzle. And if everything works out, you've met your goal, and things can sustain and things can keep going. So, and it allows you a little bit of creativity in how you're going to reach those goals for those different pieces of your fundraising picture. So, I think the truth of it is it's actually fun. People laugh about, oh, it's the fun in fundraising. It actually is fun.
It's fun. And someone just asked, is this being recorded so we can watch again and again and again? Yes, it is recorded. So thank you. Please make sure, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. So please start dropping your questions into the chat and stick with us. Don't go away. It's raining where I'm at. It's sunny where Shannon is at. So enjoy. So yes, that is true. It is fun. It definitely is a puzzle. I personally just don't like grant writing.
Oh, okay.
I don't like grant writing at all. But, creating the events, the experience, really sharing the mission, the storytelling, like all of those things that come with fundraising, especially when you do events, and especially when you have signature events, which I love for nonprofits to have signature events, whether that's a gala, or I know we have a pitch competition with my other nonprofit, or just something that gives people something to look forward to. And it's always fun to kind of see the impact that you've had over the last year.
Yeah.
So I can agree with that. Out of, and this is just a sidebar question, out of all your clients and all of the things that you've worked with, what has been your most memorable moment being in the fundraiser or nonprofit industry?
raising $1.5 million in 8 months to build a preschool.
Oh, was with the Learning Collaborative?
That was the Learning Collaborative. And that was insane. I was not, brought in to do that at all. Like, that was not the goal when I came in. But it kind of got thrust upon me. And it really made me kind of test, how I approached fundraising altogether, right? So, how am I really digging deep into, my social capital? Like, who is it that I really know? And how is this going to work? Because we were under a deadline.
Yeah.
And, I think what motivated me, number one, was it was for kids. It's for the least of these, like that's just what they, it's what was necessary. And it tested me, but that's part of the fun of fundraising. Things float up in you sometimes that you didn't know you had.
Yeah.
And I learned so much during that process, but that is definitely the feather in the cap of my career, for sure.
Let's walk through your mindset. So you said, I heard you say it was thrust upon you. So what was the amount that you thought you needed to raise? Was it just the annual budget?
That wasn't even in the plan. I came in to be a development consultant part-time to just kind of manage the grants and maybe some individual donors, because that's what the organization kind of lived on. However, things happened where they had to get a new location. And I didn't know that when I signed my contract. I find this out, maybe a couple of weeks later. And I'm like, okay, well, when do you guys need to move out of here to go somewhere else? They're like, oh, this is at the end of the school year.
Oh.
And I'm like, who are you talking to?
So, end of the school year. Okay.
Yeah. So I literally had to work with, just tap into people. I used some of the board members who had just been around for a long time and had to create a case for support. We had to work together with, construction people. And I just was like, this is what sounds right. And come up with a budget. How much is it going to cost to move? And where are we going?
Right.
And so I had to hit the ground running. I literally had to hit the ground running. And we knew that we needed something. So initially in my head was, okay, $1 million might do something. If we moved into a pre-existing building, like, we didn't know. There was nothing. And so it just so happened, when the opportunity kind of presented itself for the Greer Heights community, I kind of framed my, at this point I had to go, okay, well, we got to do a capital campaign. Like, I can't just, do this 5 hours a day and just be writing grants and calling individual donors. We got to do a capital campaign because these babies need somewhere to go. So, when we finally got the opportunity for the Greer Heights side, I kind of started framing my dollar goal around that. So I, just had to do some real deep digging to find out how much does that building cost? What does upfit look like? I don't know nothing about any of that, but luckily I just started calling people at construction companies, like, tell me about this.
Right.
And, it just kind of just started forming. And it wasn't until it was kind of over that I kind of looked back and went, wow, this is what I was doing. Yeah. In the moment, you just know you have a deadline and you have a goal. That's all you know.
Yeah. So I want to pause right there because I read your bio, so we know what you've accomplished, but I want to know, how did you get here? Like, how did you get to being in the nonprofit space? How did you get to being in the development space? Like, what is your true story? Because I know I did not expect to be where I'm at now. No clue I could create a career. No clue I was going to leave my job. No clue I was going to do, like, I knew I was going to start something, but I had no clue about nothing.
Me neither. I didn't even know what development was. when I was actually in a nonprofit. So when I came out of school, shortly after, you do the obligatory work in the bank for a little while because that's what you do. But I actually went to work for Mecklenburg County, which is a large nonprofit, but not in that capacity. I was doing more program work. But long story short, I'd gone to school originally for communications and PR. And
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so I actually worked for an advertising agency here in Charlotte. And one thing that my kids at the time were pretty small and everything, but I was traveling a lot. So I said, well, I have to do something so that I'm home more. So I said, well, let me find something. And it just so happened that somebody sent me the job opening at the Urban League. And let me tell you what the job opening was. It was executive assistant. And I said, well, that's good because that will allow me to work 9 to 5. And I know what my hours are. And because I needed to, I got small kids at the time.
Right.
So I said, this is perfect. So, coming off that and going into the Urban League as an executive assistant, I was fine for about 4 months. And then I kind of wrote myself a job description to be a communications manager, because what I recognized was, even as a Charlotte native, I didn't know that there was an Urban League. No. I didn't know. It had been around since 1972.
Whoa, I didn't know. Okay, so
no, maybe 1978. Let me take that back. I think 1978.
So that's why I was like, where did I meet Shannon? So I remember meeting you at the Urban League. I still didn't, that was my first time going.
And I feel like we met when you came for the YP. You came with it. Did you come for young professionals or something, or did you come for?
If I came, I stumbled upon it because I didn't know anything about why I didn't. I was not. I don't think I was heavily. I've always volunteered. I always served, but I was never a part of service groups. I intentionally joined Junior League of Charlotte at one point, but that was around 2016. So I was like, I'm an older person in Junior League. But yeah, I didn't really know. I didn't even know what Urban League really was. I didn't know. Yeah. So the communication role. Yeah. You saw that.
So I wrote that job description and then that was kind of natural for me being in PR and having been in an ad agency and writing copy and that kind of thing. So that was kind of natural. And, kind of created a lot out of that, some of the early social media and all of that. And at the time there was a development person, and I think there was a development manager. It might've been 2 people at the time, but, and I really didn't even know what they did. I was just like, well, they were always talking to people. And then, there was a gala that first year and I really still didn't know really the meat of what they did.
Right.
And shortly after, one of them quit. And so there was only one. Still really didn't know much about it because I was still in this, communications kind of role. We kind of did some things together, but the meat of what the grant writing and stuff, no clue. Then that person quit.
Wow. Okay.
And for me, I just started doing what came naturally. And without it knowing a title, without knowing anything, just started going, this needs to be done. This needs to be done. And one day, the ED said, write down what you do. And I did. And he's like, well, this is development. So there's what that is. And that's how I got there.
So, but still, why do you like writing grants? That's a personal question.
You know why I like that. Again, I was doing some writing, right? When I was with the ad agency. So that's something that I really enjoy from a solitude perspective, because sometimes you can just kind of get inside yourself and just do what you have to do. But what I enjoyed was creating stories. And in grant writing, there are certain questions that you answer that are basic, but then there's questions that you have to shape a picture for somebody. And I found it personally challenging. It's a personal challenge to me. Now, I'll say this, even to this day, I won't take clients that I don't feel something for, because my writing is emotional to me. right? So that when I'm doing my narratives, I got to be able to spit this out. Like, why would I, give money to this? And I'm not giving money to everything. So bearing that in mind, it was like a personal challenge. So whenever I was creating narratives, you submit your grant and you wait and see, like, did they get it? Did they like it? And when you start having success in that, it made me want to do more. So to this day, I was explaining to you earlier, I've got it's grant season. I got a ton, but I love every minute of
it. That's odd. At one point I was like, do I not like grant writing? Because I was doing everything, right? So
that's probably it. Mm-hmm.
I was the website developer. I was the accountant. I was the fundraiser. I was the event planner. I was the teacher. I was all the things. So, we celebrate. Well, I celebrate 5 years of being a full-time entrepreneur on Monday. And I'm just kind of I'm always in reflective mode. And I would just wow, because now I'm like, well, we have contractors and we have, employees. And I was just like, I used to do, I was like, how did I do all of this? Because I give them assignments and I'm like, I used to do all
of it at one time. Yeah. Well, if you were doing everything, grant writing is the most tedious of everything in the full spectrum of running a nonprofit.
It is the most tedious.
That is the most tedious for sure.
The most tedious. And we will next month, I'm just going to go ahead and put the plug here now. Next month, I think August 11th, which is the second Wednesday, we will be talking about grant writing and charitable solicitation license. And I know a lot of people, they're like, what's that? What's CSL? We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
We need to talk about it. So thank you for telling me, because I did not know that. And I can definitely see you in PR.
Yeah. That was what I wanted to do. And, I kind of did it a little bit from the advertising side. I remember one of my accounts was the Tom Joyner Morning Show and the cruise. And when Unilever was the account at that time that was a partner with them. So when people wanted to, do the thing where you send in a thing to try to win a free cruise, they sent it to our office, and me and a girl named Lauren were the ones that filtered through all of that stuff. And we worked with the Tom Joyner Morning Show. That was one of my favorite accounts.
Wow. So yes. Okay. So what are some beginner tips that you would have for beginner fundraiser?
For people in the industry? People pursuing it?
Pursuing the industry.
Keep an open mind.
That's good.
Always, understand again that fundraising runs a gamut, right? So there's different aspects to it. So if you can keep an open mind, you won't get bogged down, because like we were talking about a little earlier, there's so much information out there. You're constantly learning, you're constantly reading through, best practices as they change, as the economy changes, as, the environment changes, even as from a political perspective, how all of those changes trickle down to folks' ability to give you money. So keep that open mind, right? Another thing is make sure that you are working in your passion. Fundraising is a passion project. You cannot be detached from fundraising. So just make sure, even with an organization that you either are the founder of, or if it's an organization that, you're fundraising for, make sure you're operating in a mission match. The better you can tell your story, the better you can tell that organization's story coming from the heart, the better received it is. So make sure the missions match. Keep a sense of humor, because you already know you run into a lot of different things where you half the time embarking on either fundraising events, even in grants and stuff. You'll look at something and go, what what
is that?
What? So there will definitely be roadblocks that are presented, but if you keep your sense of humor, keep an open mind, you can navigate around it. Hone your problem solving skills. I don't know how, like for me, I just always dabbled in a lot of different things. And that's what the challenge that I loved about grant writing, I loved about any kind of fundraising events, is solving problems and then being able to anticipate problems the more you do it. So hone those skills by jumping in with both feet, experience it all. So I think those are the biggest beginner tips, and it's really about it's really individual, right? It's really about the old cliche that nonprofit work is not necessarily hard work, but it's hard work. When you find that thing, it's easy to talk about, it's easy to share, it's easy to do what you need to do to accomplish a goal because you just love it.
Yeah.
It will never feel like work. So find that passion point that allows you to work in this field so it doesn't feel like work.
And I would add one more thing. I would say find your squad.
That's in my notes. Find your tribe.
For sure. Because it is I don't want to say it was a culture shock for me, because I came from corporate and I was in healthcare consulting, and I came into the nonprofit space, and it is a whole new world. It is a whole broad world. It is a lot of different categories in this world. And of course, there are cliques in this world. There's a difference between your operation budget. How small are you, from grassroots to mid-size to large? It's the difference in your social capital. It is
it's a world. It is it's a sector. So and it is difficult to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yes.
And that's probably one of the biggest challenges that my clients face, is, for me, trying to pull them into this space, because it is, if you come from a corporate space, you probably want to approach your nonprofit in this corporate mindset. And though it is a business, it is not this corporate business. There's a little more, a little more forward facing, donor facing, underserved, underrepresented, community facing that you have to tap into, that's different from your corporate space.
Right. I am writing everything that I'm writing notes. I wanted to put
oh, you're going fast. Okay.
Yeah, I'm typing this. I already know. But
I'll talk slower.
No, you did good.
Okay.
It's just a lot. So I'm kind of gonna throw another question in here that kind of flows with our conversation. Okay. Do you feel that there's a difference between a founder and an executive director?
Yeah.
And what is that difference in your opinion?
So a founder is led by the passion of what they want to do, right? So a founder will, I know that in my consultations with founders, they talk about the big picture. Here's who we want to help. Here's what this means. Here's why, and an executive director is more tactical. They're talking full organization. So, it's a very different conversation, because when I'm consulting with a founder, they're at 30,000 feet and I'm listening, but I'm tracking things from 3,000 feet, because I'm like, you need to get a founder is more of a visionary, I think, in what they're passionate about. An executive director understands there's a visionary piece, but then there's also this organizational piece, and there's also a strategic piece. They kind of lean into the whole cycle a little bit better.
Yeah. And the only reason I asked that, because like I act as founder and executive director, but I'm like, I wasn't hired into this. So a lot of times, just in my personal story, I share that I didn't take a salary. And I get like, you didn't do what? All that work you do? And it's like, now, I'm an employee now. But for me, I was willing to sacrifice it because I'm the visionary. This came from my heart. This is something that I saw a solution to. I was very intentional about what I wanted to do and who I wanted to serve and how I wanted to serve them. But then I realized once I became an executive director, I was like, Jania, you're not thinking like an executive director because you're so caught up into because you were the founder of it.
Yeah.
And I think that is the huge difference.
Very big.
Especially some because most grassroots organizations, they are founded by someone that's working there.
Yep.
The other organizations, people are hired into it. So I absolutely agree with visionary and led by passion. And then the ED is more tactical and like I got it. The board got to approve me to come back.
Exactly. I remember we had a conversation over in Greer Heights many moons ago, and you were so passionate. I think you were still in your founder hat.
I crying all the time. Did I cry? I used to cry with everybody. I think I remember this conversation because you probably asked like, "How are you doing?" And I probably had some crocodile tears coming out.
No, I mean, when I asked you how you were doing, I'll never forget this. You shook your head, and here comes a fat tear. And I said, "Let's go over here and talk."
Oh, that was with the fraud situation.
Yeah, you were in the middle of that. You were in the middle of a lot.
Oh God.
Yeah. But to your point about what you were saying, when you were doing the founder hat, and then you had to kind of go like take a step back and go, wait a second. I think the thing that founders do, it's one of those things you're like, okay. They fall on the sword.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a martyr. You don't have to Joan of Arc your organization. You ain't got to die on the cross. And that's when, I remember you talking about not taking a salary. And I'm like, but why? You don't get a gold star for, I'm just going to foot the bill for everything. No. It makes much more business sense and makes you a lot more fundable if you understand that this is a business. So I think founders fall on the sword all the time. And I'm like, that's yourself off. Let's do this the right way. Because you don't have to be a martyr for this at all.
Yeah.
I remember my heart just going out to you because you were going through so much. And it was from such a genuine place. And I just knew. I was like, this corner is going to turn. And I think within the next month, you'd gotten a grant. And it was a pretty substantial grant.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. Yeah,
exactly. Yep. And I think that's when things started turning different.
Yeah, by the end of that year, it was like I got 3 grants.
That's right. Yep.
Woo!
Yeah. So that was something that was exciting to see from you, especially. And I don't know if everyone who knows you now knows that piece and where your heart was broken daily, I think, because you couldn't even answer the question of how are you, without like these tears. And I was just kind of like, oh my God, like you were 150% into your passion.
Yeah.
And it was so good to see you get your wins like back to back to back.
Yeah. Ooh, Chad.
What a time.
I think about it. I'm like, ooh, Chad. So that was a tough one.
Yeah.
Because then you have life happening, and I think that that's another thing. I wish I knew the solution. I think I connect more to founders because I understand. And I think because I went through it, I can speak to it more, and I love how you said, I wrote that down. You don't have to be a martyr. You don't have to fall on the sword. And I think that I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know if we think that we have to sacrifice in that way that compromises, but I'm happy to say I'm on salary, and
there you go. I'm excited for you.
I'm happy to say, but my board, they still cuts me out. They cuts me out last board meeting. They was like, Jania, you did not put in the amount we told you. But whatever.
Take care of you.
Yes. So next question: what is your advice on how to land major donors, individual donors?
Ooh. First, okay, I'm going to always go back to this, probably with every question. Know your mission and make sure everything that you're doing is a mission match, right? Everything isn't for everybody. Just because this organization that does the after school program for girls got this money from this man does not mean that your, preschool program is going to get money from that man. So
Right.
know your mission. Next, kind of do your recon, right? So what I typically do is, for most nonprofit organizations, you can find lists of donors, particularly those in a high dollar, because you have to list some of those on when they get audits and stuff like that, and audits are public record. So do some recon, right? So find organizations that might be similar to yours. So if you're doing in a tutoring program, like maybe find even larger organizations that might have that and take a look at their donors.
Yes, yes.
Especially if they're local, take a look. There's CBJ puts out the big book, right? And it's like, here are the biggest especially the nonprofit big book. So you can find organizations that are in the same kind of sector as yours, find those donors, right? And then for lack of a better term, just start, right? Make the phone call, make the write the email. I personally like to, find the person. Now, this between me, you, and Facebook Live, but I'll Google them. I'll find out where I might see them. Like, I have been known to, look at Google Images and be like, oh, okay, so they were at Del Frisco's at the bar. I'll be at Del Frisco's at the bar. Like, you do some recon, like whatever that means for you. And then make the call, write the email, and don't stop.
That part, don't stop.
Don't stop. A no is a not right now.
Yeah.
But keep a pipeline. Like, don't lean into one individual donor. Keep a pipeline. Also tap into your social capital, right? Tap into the folks on your board. Ask them. That's what was a major component of this when I was raising that over $1 million in such a short amount of time. I just turned around to the people around me and was like, so
who you know? What
you know? You know that we have to do this. And
it's a team
effort. And letting people know you don't have to give $10,000, but if you know 10 people who can give $1,000, let's get their names, let's craft you a letter, and you send it out, because those are your people. So it's there's no one secret, because it is very specific to certain individuals, right? So if you're tapping into like a Hugh McCall, there's things you need to know about Mr. McCall in order to kind of get into his circle, get into his sphere of interest. There's things you need to know, right? So it's kind of it boils down to doing recon. It boils down to, investigating, using that social capital. People, I think, here on this local level, I don't think people maximize organizations like Foundation for the Carolinas enough, because you have to recognize that Foundation for the Carolinas is made up of a bunch of investors.
But see, Shannon, let me keep it real. I don't think people understand what Foundation of the Carolinas. They don't. They really don't. And I'm just speaking off of me at one point, not understanding that it's an accumulation of different people.
Yep.
Me understanding that everything is not public. Most of it is private.
That's right.
And building those relationships with the staff so they can advocate for you.
That's it.
So I don't think people really understand.
They don't understand.
It's so grandiose in a way. You know what I'm saying? They think it's a beautiful event space, and it's like, no.
And then they also think like, oh, I got a grant from Foundation for the Carolinas, and I always correct you, like, no, there's a funder in there. Yes, there's a funder that filtered their money, and this was the fiduciary agent. Just like with the United Way, they might get dollars from somewhere else, and they're just managing giving that money out.
Yeah.
So, again, I think it kind of goes back to doing your recon, like doing your research and really kind of going, where did, XYZ organization get the bulk of their money, right? You can Google something like that. And many times, corporate supporters, large donors will show up.
Yep.
And so again, you just kind of have to be fearless and make that phone call.
Yeah, I agree. I think that just in my personal story, like I want to, we didn't talk about this, but you definitely got to diversify your fundraising strategies.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people will get top heavy in grants because it's like, even though it's tedious, when you get it, you do get a big buck of money at one time, as opposed to really cultivating those relationships with individual donors,
right?
And setting up reoccurring donors,
Right.
And I think, and I always tell people in our community, being Black women, that we have to educate people how to give to us, because Black people gonna give to church and school. That's just what's embedded in us. That's it. So it's like I've noticed that I've indirectly become an advocate, not just for grassroots organizations, but just like, how do you give? And why you should start giving to grassroots and the people that are on the ground, and why you should start giving to causes that you really enjoy. And if you do an automatic gift of $10 a month, you've given $100 for the year.
Right.
So
we don't equate that easily.
We don't equate that. Yes. Just like or another thing, this is another tip. So I hope everybody is writing down notes and all, because I got notes over here. But if you have someone that works in the corporate setting, have them to put your nonprofit down as someone to give to, so it could come out of their check. I get a check,
and they'll match. Ask about a match.
Ask for the match.
Double your money.
Yeah, I get a check every month from Duke Energy, from my people that work at Duke Energy, and they put Stiletto Bosch University down as the nonprofit that they want to give to. And it may be multiple nonprofits, but that is a cool way to help somebody, or to get them in the system, to get them into that social capital. Because
passive fundraising is what it is. And you can attribute that back to that individual. So when you're doing donor recognition, which prompts people to give even more because you thought of them, and they probably hadn't even thought about it. Like, hey, we got this check. Sometimes they list the name. I know, like for Bank of America, when you go through there, they might have a name. And typically they don't really give you like an address or anything like that. But do some recon, you can find it out, or you can send that back to, their financial space and say, we just want to make sure that these individuals get, this acknowledgement.
Exactly.
That's some passive fundraising right there. You connect with, I always get for my clients, the first thing that I tell them is make sure their board are their first givers, and do your board census, and whatever companies they represent, then you ask them to do the match. Like I've gone as far as found that match paperwork for Duke Energy and Bank of America and Wells Fargo, and I just keep that on the ready and be like, well, I got your paperwork. I'll just send that over, and then they just turn it in.
Yeah. So next question, and I hope y'all are loving this because this is so good, so
this
good.
Is fun.
So, what are 5 components of a good fundraiser?
Okay, I struggled with that question a little bit because, again, we have to remember that fundraising and fundraisers are different things. So those are different animals. So if you're talking about a fundraiser as in an event, there are a few things that constitute a good event. One, it needs to connect with your demographic and your audience. So what that might look like, a hit would be if you're, I'll use, for example, how I started, which was Urban League. Well, I'm not about to do a hoedown for the Urban League. That ain't happening. We ain't putting on cowboy hats and listening to banjos. So the connection was the gala.
Yeah.
That's what fit.
Do they still have that?
I think it's on a bit of a smaller scale, but yeah. So, so you kind of have to find that that connector point. Another thing that makes a good fundraiser, and this is I'm kind of speaking with my fund development hat on, is that it's mission focused. So you never forget why you're there. If you are doing this for, kids, that should be a prevalent theme. So from a guest experience perspective, they know they're at a fundraiser, they know they're at a gala or whatever it is, but you also need to make sure they know why. It's not just because you got an open bar. It is, you're constantly going to be bombarded with the messaging. Another really important, this probably goes without saying, the it being original and creative.
Right.
The what I used to love about putting on fundraising events was, luckily I worked for someone who allowed me just carte blanche, just do whatever. So you could just do anything you want, within reason, of course. But when you have that, you think about guest experience. You think about what are they. I remember one of the first ones, and I had an artist doing a live painting.
Oh yeah, was it David Wesley?
It was. Okay. That was one of his first times doing that, and I had to tell him, like, please put a price tag on this. But but he was doing live painting right in the lobby of the Omni. And it was a draw because at the time we had a silent auction. We all hate silent auctions. But there was something that was interactive.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, we hate silent auctions. So, yeah, just being original and creative, again, lending to a guest experience. And I think that's 3, 4. Yeah. Another one is, and again, I'm going to put on my fund development hat here. Have an exciting ask. Don't forget the ask. A great event earns money. And I have been to so many events where the ask was almost like an afterthought. It would come at the end when people are like shuffling around and, no, you do that ask in the middle when people are hyped, when people have had their 1 or 2 cocktails, and then you make it exciting and compelling and you incorporate a lot of people. A good event keeps people engaged in different aspects, right? So the engagement when they first arrive is the ooh-ah of the venue and, just being there. The engagement, an hour in is a meal and this open bar situation. The engagement, the next 30 minutes is this exciting ask. This is why we're here. This is what we're doing. So it's constantly keeping people on their toes during the course of the event. So I think that's 5. But
so what has been your favorite fundraising event thus far in your career?
I've had so many. I love galas. I was a one-person shop putting on those galas for over 500 people, and I loved every single minute of it. Even when at the end you had to go cry in the closet because you just overwhelmed.
You like, oh,
because you are constantly crying in the closet.
Yeah.
But I think that I have 2 favorite events that I kind of, they came out of nowhere. One of them, ironically, was an annual meeting that turned into a fundraiser. Typically, when you think about an annual meeting, you think like, hey, we're just getting the state of the organization. We're going to hear a story. We'll let the big companies come and present the one big check. And, you just it's kind of a dry kind of thing. But at the Urban League, we had an annual meeting, and I tapped into a friend of mine who at the time, I think he worked for Coca-Cola. He was kind of, over the top anyway. And I was like, listen, I want you to do something for me. I want to try something. And basically I asked him to get so enthralled with the message that our person, one of our participants was giving, that he stood up and was like, I would like to make a pledge. And then I want to challenge.
Yeah.
And people were all over, I'll pledge, here's my check. So we literally turned the annual meeting into a fundraiser, and it became one of the biggest fundraisers that the Urban League actually had. We used to have it at Extravaganza, and we would sell Yep,
That's awesome.
that was one. And then another one that became kind of a signature event at the time too was these president's receptions for high dollar donors.
Mm.
Pool venue. I remember being on a rooftop pool and you had high dollar donors, and they got an opportunity to engage with not only the executive director, but the board of directors in a very intimate setting. And we did that probably twice a year, but that increased giving for those people who were already giving at levels, above $1,000. And they gave at that time. So, I kind of carried that model to different places that I worked, and it worked everywhere. Worked at every location. It was just a combination of like fundraisers or just tapping into some high dollar folks in this kind of a different kind of way.
So what has been your favorite fundraiser event that you've attended? Because I've seen you at a few.
You know what? And I'm trying to think. This actually was a fundraiser. There's a church on Queens Road, and it's an Episcopalian church right behind Myers Park. They do a crab boil.
Oh.
They do a crab boil on the church grounds, complete with beer and wine. And it's a whole crab boil. And they're raising funds for different charities.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And so the people, the congregants, they buy tickets. Even some people from that community around the Queens Road area, they know, they buy the tickets, and they have a whole, that is the coolest event I think that I'd ever been to. And I went, a few years in a row, and you meet the coolest people, and it's a crab boil. Like that is, it's genius.
I just love food, so I would love
it. Yeah. And it's so much food. And they had a band, and again, this is on the church grounds at the Episcopalian church. This is on the church ground, but it was lovely. I think that's been one of my favorite events.
Awesome. So I do have some questions that are coming in. Some people are texting me. I'm like, why y'all not ready? But long as they're questions. Yeah. One person asked, how long should you give yourself to hit your fundraising goal? So should you be ambitious, and like, what's the realistic time frame of hitting a fundraising goal? And I guess we can break it down, like, what's a realistic time frame to hit 50K or 100K or 250K?
So I think that it is going to be very dependent on your organizational annual budget. So,
people don't know that.
Yeah. So in short, you got your 12 months. I mean, really, because you have an annual budget, and in that budget, it should balance out how much does it cost to do this program and how much do I need to raise to make sure. So your expenses and your income need to balance out. So once you take a good assessment of how much does it cost me to do everything I want to do all year long, that's when you go into your fundraising strategy. And if you come up with, it's going to cost me $50,000 to serve the people I want to serve in the way that I want to serve them, it's going to cost me $50,000. You got to move into, well, how am I going to raise that $50,000? Especially if it's January. I'm trying to do a program in March. I'm trying to do a program in July. I'm trying to do a program in September. So if you need $50,000, you need to work through your budget and understand how much you need to raise. Now, when I do a development plan, I'm a little more anal than a lot of people. When I do my development plan for, my clients or different organizations, I break it down to the week. I know how much we got to raise every week, every month in order to meet this goal. I break mine down to the week. I'm a technical person. A lot of development plans might do a monthly kind of assessment, but always keeping track, right? So in short, the realistic goal depends on your programs and your program year and your annual budget. If it's a capital campaign, like what we did, what I had to do for the for the preschool, that was outside of the annual budget, because the annual budget maintained the classrooms and all of that stuff. This other thing was building a whole building. So that's outside of that. But we knew we had about a year. And that was raising the money, purchasing the building, upfitting everything, and getting these kids in for the next school year. So we couldn't play. And luckily it came in earlier than we thought, but yeah, we knew what time frame we had.
Okay. So the next question I have, someone asked, how do you go about making an annual budget?
Prayer. No. You have to spend some time as a founder, spend some time with yourself and think, what is it that I want to do? Who do I want to serve? Ask yourself these questions. What does that look like? How many could I conceivably serve?
Yeah, what is my capacity?
What's my capacity? If I had to do it all by myself, what would that look like? Because we can, want other people to help, but volunteers are just that. We don't know how that's going. They're not going to have your passion. So, but in order to create your budget, in the most broad sense, it's how much does it cost to put on this program, or to exist for a year, or however you're shaping your particular nonprofit.
Right.
But how much is this going to cost me?
Right.
You have to, just like you do your household budget, you got to just go through and say, this is how much these things cost. If I have to rent a facility for this to happen, if I'm doing a 5-week program, I need to rent this facility for 5 weeks. How much is that going to cost me? Is that $125 a week? Okay, that's my facility budget. That, so you have to break everything down. And once you recognize how much it costs you to put on your program, that's when you start doing your tweaking and be like, okay, it might look like $500,000 on paper. So how can I scale that back to make it feasible for year one? Scaling up might be $1 million. But once you get and understand how much it costs you to do what you want to do, that's the basis of your budget. The next part is, okay, if it costs me $50,000 to do exactly what I want to do, now I got to figure out how am I going to make $50,000.
Right.
So in my fundraising efforts, I know that I'm going to need a diversification, because I can't raise $50,000 on GoFundMe.
Right.
I can't raise $50,000 selling candy bars.
Right.
I can raise $50,000 doing a car wash.
Right.
So I need to understand that I need to cultivate individuals who love what I love. I need to look at grant funding. I need to find corporate support. You have to diversify your funding to get to that place.
Right.
And from a budget perspective, at the end of the day, I think people sometimes complicate budgets too.
Yeah.
It costs this much and I need to raise this much. And those numbers should be the exact same. That's all.
Right. Well, Shannon, we're going to stop, because you done dropped
forever.
Forever. You done dropped gems, some things that I wrote down. The 5 beginner tips, which is keep an open mind, working your passion, keep a sense of humor, hone your problem solving skills, find your tribe. In regards to just individual donors, just ask, write the emails, send the meeting, just do it, basically. And don't stop, and really tap into your social capital and lean on your board. And then my favorite quote from you tonight was, you don't have to be a martyr. And that really is speaking to our funders. So I definitely appreciate you for being on here with me tonight. Please let people know how they can get in contact with you, your information, all that stuff. And then we're going to wrap it up, because we keep it at an hour here and we honor that. That's
fantastic. So I got 45 seconds. So you can find me, you can email me at shannon@nextlevelnonprofits with an S.net. If you have any questions, concerns, you can do that. You can text me, because I love that, at 980-338-1749. And you can visit nextlevelnonprofits.net, the website, and shoot me an email or schedule some time.
Awesome. So
Yeah,
thank you so much. I
thank you.
appreciative, and I am glad to say you are one of the people that are part of my tribe. That if I need something, I'll be like, Shannon.
Well, you have
Yep.
been an inspiration. I have loved watching your journey. Like I've been like, I know her. So your journey has been remarkable. So thank you. I am honored that you brought me here today. So thank you for everything that you've done. But thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. So, audience, I hope you guys enjoy everything. I see Venitra said, thank you, ladies. Thank you for watching. And this will be in the replay. So, we will see you next month. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.